So today we're going to be tackling the final boss. We're going to be tackling feet. Most people even just do art pieces where it's just the body so they can avoid the feet. But we're going to be facing feet today. There isn't as much on feet, so it's going to be a shorter episode. So when it comes to feet, one of the most important things is understanding the bone structure. We're going to start off with the calcaneus. This is the part at the back of your foot, the heel of your foot. Sitting on top of that, you're going to have two bones. So you'll have the fibula, which is the smaller bone of the two, and then a second bone, which is the tibia. Just in front of the tibia, you're gonna have 4 more bones. Well, the names aren't as important because we're thinking about the overall shape. But if you want the names, the navicular, the cuneiform, the cuboid. And so the tibia sits upon the talus, that goes into those 4 bones, and off those 4 bones you get the metatarsals. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just do, let's do our 5th there. So metatarsals. Then finally, you get the phalanx, your toes. And so, one way to look at this is to group the areas. So, we can group this into section 2. We can group this into section 1. We can group this into section 3. And finally, section 4 is its own thing, which is the calcaneus there. And so, fibula, calcaneus, phalanx, metatarsals. And so, we take the shapes of these, so 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and we're going to transition that into something that's a bit more organic. So we're just going to group the fibula and the tibia into one shape, like this. Imagine it's a wrench that sits on top. Now this is gonna represent the talus, which is this bone here that sits under the fibula. It's gonna come down into the metatarsals, and finally phalanx. On this side we can just draw this shape here, which represents the calcaneus. We transition from this to this, and then finally, when we're thinking about making those shapes organic, we can take this group, or the metatarsals and the talus, and turn it into this. So just gonna draw out this shape to represent the metatarsals and the talus. Can go into group 1 to draw that ankle and the part that sits on top. Can go into group 4 to draw the calcaneus. You can kind of think of it as like as heels in some sense. And then finally, group 3, we're gonna look at drawing the big toe first, like that, and it always curves round to the pinky toe. Yeah, I'm just gonna group the middle few toes together like that. And you can see you've kind of got the shape of a foot. Now I'm just gonna draw another example. So this is representing where those metatarsals are. And it's always a good idea to try and visualize the shape in your mind as you're doing it, so that you know, okay, here I'm gonna do the calcaneus, big toe. Remember, it wraps around. So after we've done our big toe, just make sure that we're wrapping around the form. We can put our ankle in here. And finally, goes into the section where we've got our leg. Now when it comes to toes, it's important to think about the structure. So oftentimes we talk about C curves and S curves, similar thing, where you start off straight, it's gonna curve slightly in and round, and then it's gonna come slightly in, come back out like that, go slightly in, something like that. Something like this. You can draw like the contour lines to help you, and then remember what we said, curves in to the smaller toe. So we're just gonna go slightly in, follow that shape, slightly in, follow that shape. But yeah, you can see that when it comes to drawing the shape of the toe, a key thing is remembering those C curves and S curves. Now when you go to the back of the foot, you're gonna get a 3D shape that looks a bit like this. So this is just representing the calcaneus. This is representing that fibula and the tibia. Right there. And that's gonna come down to where that foot is, right here. Now whenever you're looking at the back view, you've got this shape. If you remember the chicken bone shape from the last video, where you've got the gastrocnemius here and it's coming down, this is the tibia right here, coming down into the area where we've got our calcaneus bone. And so you need to remember this kind of shape here and this before you can make it organic. Now let's look at an example. So I'm just starting off with the calcaneus, and that's curving up into the tibia right here, and we're getting that chicken bone in the shape. So we've got our floor, which is roughly here. You have to follow that foot shape where it's curving. Like that. And then maybe we can emphasize the ankle. And so we take this form and we're breaking it down into something that feels a bit more organic. Now on the other side, I'm going to use a method that I haven't talked about yet. So it's a method where you draw the sole of the foot and then you construct based off the sole of the foot. So let's just find the floor. I'm going to draw the sole of the foot. And you can think about the sole of the foot being a bit like a phone symbol, just a lot more fat. Now we're gonna do that same sort of thing. We're gonna follow the tibia up with some curved lines. Now we're just gonna indicate the ankle. Just gonna draw it coming down, and finally you can see evidence of that little toe on the edge, just there. And this side, just like that. So whenever you're thinking about the tibia and the fibula, there's always going to be unbalance. So you can see in this, it's tilted, and even here, when it's flat, it's tilted. There's some tilt to it. So finally, I'm just going to draw a few different examples to try and drill this in, and hopefully that you're following along. But I would definitely just recommend going on Pinterest and drawing some feet and thinking about some of the concepts that we've looked at here, where I take the metatarsals and I'm just grouping that together like this as one shape. Now I can go slightly above, where I group a second shape. This is representing the tibia and the fibula, and you can see that we've offset it like that, so it's not straight, it's tilted. Now finally can go into those toes, and I usually try and start with the big toe, draw like a curved line round, and try and indicate that little toe there. I mean, you can go in and draw out the mini changes to finish the foot off, and then on this side we're gonna do that sole method We just draw the sole of the foot. Like that. Group the toes together again. And this time I'm not really gonna draw that out. Now finally, think about bringing that form up and round. It's kind of doing this. So I'll just do that. And on the other side, we have our foot doing something like that. And I guess to show that this is the bottom half, we could shade that out if we wanted to. I'll just do 2 more, and hopefully you're following along, so you're getting some reps in. But it really is a case of just practice, practice, practice. So again, where those metatarsals are, just above, you can think of this a bit like a hinge. So you can see here again, there's a tilt to it. And finally, as we get down, think about that big toe. I can separate these out and group them and just draw that small toe curving in on the other side. Same sort of thing. Gonna start with that area with the metatarsals. Drawing in that big toe, curving round like that. On this side you can see it, so we can draw in the calcaneus right here. You can draw in the ankle. And then finally, think about that curving. And so you can see how I try and approach feet. It's not the best way. I'm sure there are probably other ways to go about drawing feet, but it's a method that you can try. So let's recap. When it comes to drawing feet, the key landmarks in my mind are the area where you've got the metatarsals, or the main part of the foot, the toes, and then you've got that hinge that's on the top. Finally, you've got the calcaneus, or the heel of the foot. And so whenever you're drawing a foot, try and landmark those out. Think about, okay, do I have the place where I've got the metatarsals in? Have I drawn the feet, and are they arcing towards the small toe? Have I put in that hinge, and have I remembered that there's an ankle? And is it offset? Is it unbalanced? And then finally, can I see the calcaneus? If it's from the back view, think about, do I need the sole of the foot? Do I need to start constructing from that? Or do I start working from that tibia gastrocnemius in a shape like this? And so those are key things to think about when it comes to drawing feet. Hopefully this video has helped. I know it's a short video and there really isn't as much in this, but my recommendation is actually just to go on Pinterest and start drawing feet. It's the key thing. You can see even for this video, right? I drew quite a few different feet, and it took me quite a while to get a grasp of it. But hopefully that's helped. Stay tuned in for more videos, and if you have any recommendations of videos you'd like to see, let me know, post them in the comments. Have a great week.